All right, so this is an inspiration from session one of the True Storytelling, Organizational Development and Change 2.0 module done April 6, 2021. And my personal learning reflection was about gently, relentlessly uncovering the truth, which feels like the archaeology of organizational development and discovery learning. And the idea is something like the top level idea is that if you're trying to excavate an archaeological site with a steam shovel, you can make things an awful lot worse. So don't excavate a historical site with a steam shovel. You should probably use a toothbrush or a very small spoon. So the idea is something like this, that in an organization, everything rolls downhill. You know, you get the leaders from on high and they issue commands, and then events happen and this thing snowballs and steamrolls down here, and it piles on to the workers who are, and that's just all of us down here in our working network. And it's a team that gets things done. We're the silent majority. And the way all of this stuff works is kind of the culture of the place. And so you're down here, you know, rowing well, doing your best, and all this stuff keeps piling on. And it can actually build up in layers on top of you like sedimentary rock. It just trickles down and starts accumulating. And so while we're trying to get work done, these new changes keep coming down, and it adds, you can't handle all the new stuff all the time and still keep working to ship product and do the work. So there's this, some things just accumulate. And it actually covers over some sore points. Like there's a little irritation about some new change, but it doesn't seem big enough to really attend to. We got other things to do, bigger fish to fry. And so that sore point just kind of gets embedded silently, and the scar tissue forms, and it just gets layered over and forgotten. And along with those sore points, they're the buried emotions from the irritation that happened. Those things can be like landmines later on if you were to go in and excavate and try to, every so often, you hit a wrong nerve and it's like, you know, bam, this thing explodes. And why did that guy snap? Well, it's because there was some injustice had occurred at some point that was never fully addressed. And this just reminded, and it brought it right back to the surface. So those can be like trigger events, connections to bad memories. And meanwhile, these new changes from new leaders come in. So old leaders are piling on, and then new leaders come in, and the new boss is the same as the old boss, like the Who taught us. And they've got new programs and new points of view and new jargon and new slogans and fix it now. And so the rate of change is faster than our ability to get to equity and resolution and processing of all these negatives. So it just keeps carrying forward. Well, the collection of all those unspoken histories, the stories that are not told, those are part of the subordinate culture or the subcultures or these small in-groups at the worker level that remember what it was like back when and how things were tried before, but they never have any voice. And so when the new guys come in, there's a certain skepticism and even cynicism that arises when the new guys who are unaware of the old history start proposing new things. And they wonder why everybody's not immediately on board with their new genius. It's because they're not aware of all the unspoken stories and the background and the deep, in the fullness of time. So if you would genuinely incorporate all of these people, what you have to do is get down there and account for the stories that are already in place that have not been told, that did not have voice. That's the second principle of true story. The first principle of true storytelling is that it must be truthful and it must be your story. So if we detect that the new leader coming in is not even truthful, then we can just stop right there. I don't have to subscribe to anything because you're a bullshitter. But if it seems like, hey, that guy's being truthful at least, then the second step is to account for the stories that are already there. And so my argument, my insight from this week was that if you go in with a steam shovel, like if you come in and you don't understand how people work and live and exist, and you want to give at least, more than lip service, but you want to address all that history, but you want to get on with it so that you can quickly get to the new line of work, the new ideas that you're bringing in. You could say, well, I'm going to allocate, a couple days to all you guys tell all your stories. And then once we've heard all the stories, now we can get on with what I want to do. Well, you haven't really serviced the problem. You haven't really serviced the truth of the experiences that they had. You will typically be superficial or brute force, not fully listen, and not really process the implications. Because how could you possibly know that it's going to take you 2 days to listen to all those stories and get to some kind of equitable resolution when you don't even know what the stories are or what the implications are? I mean, that could be days, weeks, months, years. It could be something that's so powerful that it supersedes the new ideas that you're bringing in because of the power of the idea. You have no way of knowing that unless you're kind of committed to exploring that. So if you treat this like a contractor who's digging a foundation and it just comes in with a steam shovel, yeah, you'll get a foundation built, but you will have maybe destroyed all the gold that is down there waiting to be told. You're just scooping it all out. You're really just treating all the history like so much debris that needs to be removed in order to build a new foundation. Now, sometimes there's a reason to do that. Sometimes, but the cost comes from not accounting for all those stories. And if you don't account for that, then you're in a position where you might end up reliving all those experiences or sub-optimizing, whatever. So my argument is that you've got to get through those layers of sedimentary rock and uncover all of those existing stories with care and mindfulness in the same way that an archaeologist might carefully but quickly enough uncover the history of a people's, or the layers of history and societies that existed there, or the same way that a surgeon might be doing a careful exploratory of the body to find out what really is going on inside that body. So in conclusion, then, this is sort of this relentless piling up of new things to do ends up, either stifling or burying a lot of the subordinate micro stories that each person, each small work group has, that never get a chance to be heard. And in the rush to adopt the latest new big idea, you miss the opportunity to leverage the power of the people that are there. Now, one of the principles that we know from project management is that when you are trying to install a new program, that you will be more successful if you incorporate insights from the people that are involved. But too many times that really is just enlisting them into how to make this program better, and it may not fully account for all of the histories and stories. So that's at least a step in the right direction. But the idea behind true storytelling then is to incorporate a culture in which these untold stories have a chance to be told in a routine, reliable, regular way. You're not just waiting for emergencies and major change points, that you are existing in a culture, you're creating a culture, you're reinforcing a culture that allows stories to be told truthfully in a safe space with trust in order to find opportunities to do things as you go. And you will strengthen the network of people working together, and you'll do a better job with the edicts that come down from on high, and especially if they're part of the decision-making process, the things that higher is asking us to do are more likely to be reflective of the truth that you find on the ground. So in conclusion then, this was, from session 1 of this ODC, this idea that true storytelling is really like archaeology in the sense that it has respect for the past and what we don't know, and it treats all of the the stories as potential breakthrough insights to lead to future opportunities, because you don't even really know until you get in there and carefully excavate. So this doesn't mean take forever to do that, but there's ways to do archaeology in a way that is respectful. And then you learn how to quickly connect to the stories and develop them in such a way that you can unleash the power of those things. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to say about this idea, being gentle but relentless. Because when you're being gentle, you're working slowly and carefully with small volumes. So you've got to be doing that consistently, constantly, in order to keep pace with the rate of change that's coming from the world. But if you don't do that, you might as well just accept the fact that you are just layering the people with all of these things, and they're going to come back and bite you at some point, and you're just going to have a certain amount of friction and less than complete buy-in and commitment from your people. A lot of the experience in Japanese manufacturing with self-directed work teams and Kaizen in the workplace is built around the idea that the guys doing the work actually know best what's going on. They don't know everything, but they know a lot. And if we don't account for it reliably and regularly and routinely, then we're missing the boat. Van, if you didn't talk with the contractors who are actually building out your designs, you wouldn't realize that what looked good on paper really is hard to build or creates problems in practice. And so that you need that two-way communication. So the idea behind true storytelling is to make this a multi-directional network of communication. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And let me see if I can turn off that recording.